Happy Monday. Our quote this morning is from a good friend of mine. He's an attorney, and he told me when he was in law school, his law professor would always say, ink is cheap, but litigation is expensive. One of the biggest things that we're having concerns about as an industry are home repairs or inspections after the fact. Buyers are in their homes, and then they realize that certain repairs need to be made that weren't disclosed by the seller or wasn't found on the home inspection. So that's just a very small fraction of some of the other issues that could go wrong that could trigger buyer's remorse. Here are some tips for that. Tip number one, communication. Always try to be clear and concise with your communication. I know in this day and age you have text, you're calling on the phone, someone may be messaging through social media, by direct messaging, but make sure that you try to go back to an email conversation. So if someone has to call you and say, hey, I want this to get done, or you're explaining something to your clients on a phone call or in person, always conclude that, whether it's at the end of the day, with an email, just to kind of conclude everything that you guys spoke about and have it in one central spot. Another tip is, as buyer's agents, whenever we do get a seller's disclosure, before we just forward it to a buyer to sign, go over it and make sure that everything was filled out completely. And if there's anything that's missing, confirm with the listing agent. So when you send it to the buyers, you're already one step ahead of the game, asking any questions that may be needed to get clarification. For example, if there's any further questions that are follow-up questions that may be needed on, let's say, certain repairs or certain things that were done to the property or defects, you want to be able to at least address those with the listing agent beforehand, so when it gets to your buyer, you can have a conversation about that. The final thing is to do a walk throughout the property. A lot of agents these days, they send a co-agent to go see a property. Sometimes they get into contracts without even viewing the property, especially for the larger properties and acreages. Walk the property and just make sure everything is on the up and up. If there's any storage sheds, anything like that, that should be a part of the sale. Make sure it's there. For example, if a neighbor has even an RV on the property for an extended period of time, inquire about that and make sure that it will be removed prior to closing, so there's no easements or any kind of issues that could come out in the future and pull your buyers in the middle of it. There's some things you just can't prevent and some things you can. So just always, again, remember to try to put as much things in writing as you can and just be able to cover yourselves, because at the end of the day, you don't want to necessarily fall on the wrong ends of a claim to where you fail to do what you needed to do as an agent, or there's any conspiracy claims or any failure to disclose material facts or any misrepresentation. So that's it on this week's Real Talk, and have a great week. See you on the next one.